Welcome to Galcom's Mission Compass podcast. To learn more about Galcom and our guests today, visit galcom.org.
I don't think there's a greater joy to be in the Lord's work and seeing God change lives than any other profession. And it doesn't matter how much you're paid or what the benefit package is. If you could bring one person to Christ, that might change, so many generations of people.
Hello, friend. Welcome to Galcom's Mission Compass, your guide to the Great Commission. I'm Ron Harris. On today's Mission Compass, we want to update you on what Galcom is doing around the world and also connect with a ministry partner who, like Galcom, is making waves. Where do you fit in the Great Commission? Well, keep listening. We may have answers for you. And here's your host, Galcom's Tim Whitehead.
Well, thank you, Ron. Yes, we got a great program prepared today, but as you promised, a bit of a Galcom update. As we speak, Al White, our missions team lead, has a short-term mission trip down in Oaxaca, Mexico. We got a team of 7 people plus Al, handing out solar-powered audio Bibles, going house to house, ministering to people practically and spiritually. Please be praying for them. Our engineer, Pierre-Yves, is in the Far East at a conference, equipping, training, networking with other mission agencies and pastors, missionaries, equipping them with media tools, digital media, traditional media like radio, so they can reach more people at a time. Downstairs in our production facility, we're making thousands of radios for our partners in South Sudan, our partners in Mongolia. It's great to see the doors that are opening for ministry around the world. We want to be a part of it, equipping people with the tools to multiply themselves. Radio, giving a radio here and there. Now they stay in that village speaking to people through the radio while they're long gone and ministering to other people. What else is going on here at Galcom? Oh yes, last week we announced our virtual banquet. I'm putting my little air quotes up there. June 10th. Just a few weeks away. It's not too late to RSVP. We've got reports from Mongolia, Quebec, from the team from Mexico. We're going to get some footage from them and get a report on what God did during that trip. You want to tune in and find out all that Galcom is doing here, all the outreaches we have. And Ron, as you said, we want to equip you to be a part. We need your help. And I don't mean Galcom. I mean the church, the body of Christ in missions. 1/3 of the world has never heard of Jesus Christ. So on this week's program, Mark Kordic from the Alliance for the Unreached will be talking about next weekend's International Day for the Unreached. AllianceForTheUnreached.org, AllianceForTheUnreached.org. Go there now. Get resources for you and your church to get involved. And Mike Reimer, Canadian Director of Avant Ministries, shares about his recent trip down to Bolivia, the heritage of his family, and opportunities for you to serve. Don't go away. But before anything else, Bonnie Sala with our Devo.
Parking spots. Can you actually trouble God for the little things in life, like a parking spot in a crowded lot when you're running late? I'm Bonnie Sala with Reset. Many people are living their lives like God doesn't see or care about their oppression of others, selfishness, or cruelty. They assume there are no consequences for what they do. And there are also many followers of Jesus that subconsciously think God only sees the big, important things. In our world, a powerful person doesn't bother with little details. But God is infinitely powerful and cares infinitely about the minor details of our lives. Maria, a single mother, had followed Jesus for years. She knew God cared about big things in the world, but she didn't think he cared about the details of her life. It never occurred to her to ask God to help her with a bill she was secretly struggling to pay. One day, a friend handed her an envelope with $23 in it, the exact amount she needed to pay her bill, saying, "God told me to give this to you." Maria's faith changed that day. God wasn't just great and powerful. She also knew he cared about the little things with infinite love. The Bible says that the fear of the Lord is the foundation of wisdom. To fear the Lord means living with the unshakable belief that God sees and cares. We're walking in fear of the Lord when we turn to God, believing he cares about small things in our lives. When we believe he sees our little acts of love, prayer, and giving done secretly. And when we believe he wants to meet us and move, even in mundane things, like parking spots. I'm Bonnie Sala with Reset. To hear this again, read or share this, or to find more resources like this, visit guidelines.org.
Well, friend, next week is the International Day for the Unreached, May 28th. And to tell us more about it and how you can get involved is Mark Kordic from the Alliance. Mark, great to have you with us again.
Well, you bet. I was involved 8 years ago when the Alliance started. By God's grace, I was with one of our 75 partners, and now have been a staff member for the last 5 years with the Alliance. But very exciting. We've never had this type of response, so much so that we're calling it, brother, the International Week for the Unreached.
Hey, I like it.
Because of what's happening today, May 20th.
Tell us then, because there's something going on on Moody Radio. Tell us all about it.
You know, Moody stations around the world are picking up on it. That's some 500 stations. And there are other stations as well that take Moody programming, but aren't a full affiliate. And today from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, that would be Central Time in the United States and that part of Canada. It'll be a 2-hour special. It's unprecedented that a network like Moody would do this, or to let people know that you can take a step today and make an impact for eternity by bringing the gospel to the unreached.
We love Moody. We love their vision for the lost. There are a third of the population of the world that have never heard of Jesus Christ.
That's right.
So if someone wants to get some more information about how they, beyond just hearing the Moody broadcast or going on and getting online and listening to it, tell us about A Third of Us and the social media campaign.
Well, that's right. You can look at Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, and you'll see with A Third of Us, and that would be the letter A and then third, THIRD, of us. We have posted information, and as people go there and learn about the International Week for the Unreached and how they can take that step, we have a toolkit available for them. We'll send to them as they hit the link for the toolkit.
And this is the tools or things that you could put on your social media or share on your church service.
That's right. And some are prayer over the next week as we focus on the International Day for the Unreached on the 28th. We have all kinds of ideas for prayer as well.
If you go on Galcom social media, every week we've been posting stuff about A Third of Us. People need to hear about Jesus Christ, this alliance of organizations. Mark, I don't remember in all of the conversations we've had what ministry you were working with before you joined the alliance.
Yeah, I was with Wycliffe Bible Translators affiliate known as Seed Company. And that's why 12 years ago I moved from basically the Ohio area to Texas. So I'm a Buckeye in Texas and love it here in Fort Worth in order to be near the headquarters of Seed Company. It's one of Wycliffe's largest affiliates.
Friends, if you want more information about the Alliance, more information about the Week for the Unreached, go to alliancefortheunreached.org. In the About, you can see all the different ministries that are there involved, and you can see the seed companies there. Wycliffe is there, Trans World Radio, World Mission. One of my favorites is the Joshua Project. Every morning here at Galcom, we go to the joshuaproject.net and pray for an unreached people group. We need to be praying for people that never heard about Jesus and then going. So, Mark, you answered the call to be a vocational missionary with Seed Company. Now you're getting more people mobilized. Why don't you just speak to the person that says, I don't even know where to start? Where do you start to get to know about unreached people and about missions?
You know, besides the website that you just gave, and you mentioned Joshua Project, the way my heart was warmed toward the unreached and bringing the gospel to somebody I may never meet in person is by praying like you're doing each day. There's a podcast called Unreached of the Day, and I happen to be the voice for that podcast. But when it started, I wasn't. Somebody else was, and I started listening to the podcast, and I became so interested in these people groups, and I was imagining my 3 kids, now they're adult children, And then we have a grandchild and step-grandchildren. I can't imagine them not having a moral compass in their life, that is a Bible in their language, or knowing a believer, or even seeing a church in their community.
A third of the world's population is just like that, friends. We need to do something about it. So start by informing yourself and start by praying. JoshuaProject.net, start praying every day leading up. AllianceForTheUnreached.org, get all the resources, get your church involved, get your family praying. Mark, always great to catch up with you.
Hey, great to talk to you, Tim.
You may be listening to us on your computer, but you can also find us on your smartphone using Spotify, iTunes, or other streaming platforms. Just go to galcom.org and choose your favorite. Make sure to subscribe, follow, and share our podcast.
Stories can move us emotionally. They bring us into a world of joy and sadness. Stories help us ask how we would react if we were there. Galcom International presents Stories of the Great Commission.
The Trash Mountain, the family, they are from somewhere, they live around the Trash Mountain. They get up at night, they use a flashlight on their head, and at night, hundreds of flashlights on the Trash Mountain because they pick up the garbage at night. It's more cooler and more easier for them. So it's very sad to hear that, but we are blessed to be with them and to share them the love of God and give them something that we can give. So it's a blessing for them.
Discover the greatest challenge ever given to man, the Great Commission. Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every living creature. Learn more at galcom.org, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Galcom International. Make waves.
Well, friend, a few months ago, I had the Canadian Director of Avant Ministries with us, Mike Reimer, sharing about opportunities to serve with the ministry as a missionary, full-time, part-time, short-term, whatever. But Mike is still serving. Even though he's kind of stuck in the office a lot of time, I think his heart is still out on the mission field. And he was going back to Bolivia, to where he and his wife, his family served for many years. And I said, as soon as you get back, I want to get you back on the program to tell the story. So Mike Reimer from Avant, back from Bolivia, great to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's wonderful to be back.
Now, when we first met, it was at Edmonton Mission Fest, and I signed up for your newsletter. And shortly after, you returned back from your furlough back to Bolivia amongst the Guarani. You wrote in your newsletter that you weren't needed there anymore. The church had matured. There was people serving. What does it look like now there, now that the church has been out for several years without a white Western missionary kind of guiding along beside them?
Yeah, it's wonderful to see what God is doing. We sometimes, us missionaries, think it all depends on us, and yet that's so far from the truth. And sometimes the greatest growth happens when we get out of the way and we let the nationals take responsibility. And that's what I've seen. We started a radio station there about 17 years ago. It continues to function well. People are hearing the gospel, and the church is being strengthened and growing. And we're not even sending money down there. They're looking after the finances as well. And so we try to support every now and then with a little bit of help or encouragement, but they're doing it. And so that's so encouraging.
What about their evangelism? So now you said they're established, they're running things, financially sound, sustainable is a word we like to use a lot in missions. Are they reaching out to people around them? Is the church growing?
Yeah, we were there in the little village that we focused on, where we had built a little adobe house, and we got to go back there, and they had a meal all ready for us, and we sat outside and ate corn on the cob, and it was just wonderful to hear the stories of them going to the next village over, and a church has been started there. They even sent one of their own young people to the Bible seminary, and so he's going to be graduating, with a 4-year degree.
Wow.
I don't think there's another Guarani that's done that, and so it's really encouraging to see how they are just taking the gospel to places that we dreamt about, but never got to. But they're doing that.
Speaking of places that you never dreamt about, you shared a story in your newsletter when you got back about some heritage in your family, about your wife's grandfather riding a mule around these communities. Tell a little about the story and how this kind of came full circle for you.
Yeah, we had started a little library in conjunction with the radio station, and before we left Bolivia, we transformed our mission house where we used to live into the radio studio and library, and so we were just hanging out there, kind of reminiscing of old times when we bumped into this young family with their two 8 and 10-year-old boys. They had come to the library. They crossed the river from their Guarani village and were looking for Bibles for their little boys so that they could read God's word on their own. So we just got to talking with them, and my wife was curious where they had come to know the Lord, and they told of this back in the woods village that this man's grandfather grew up in, and a missionary would come and visit on a mule. Well, he didn't say that, but Carolyn, my wife, asked, "Now, did he come on a mule?" And kind of trying to confirm who this missionary was. Way back. And sure enough, it was a missionary that would travel on his mule. But this young fellow would always try to get away. He would hide out in the fields when the missionary would come because he really didn't want to listen to his message. And yet one day they happened to meet on the road. And after sharing the gospel, this young fellow accepted the Lord. And my wife told this now second or third generation believer who that missionary was, and it was her grandfather who was serving in that area back then. And it was so special to just think about, wow, the gospel had gotten to his family, and then his parents believed, and now they were believers, and they were passing that on to the fourth generation and planting a church in this village. So it was just so special to see the fruit that her grandfather would have never known everything that happened. But that's the life of a missionary. You sow seeds, you harvest a few souls, and you have no idea what God's going to do in the future.
Just to give him full credit, what was Carolyn's grandfather's name and what agency was he with?
Well, he was with, they merged into Avant Ministries as well. So the same, they were Evangelical Union of South America, EUSA, back then. Yeah, that they were the same mission, and his name was Leslie Harwood.
Leslie Harwood, what a great heritage. And Avant does sound a lot better. It rolls off the tongue a lot easier. So good choice on the name change. But Leslie Harwood, what a great testimony, faithfully traveling by mule to these isolated. Now, just to give us a bit of a picture, you said they had to cross the river over to where you were, where the library radio station was. How remote are these villages? Like, any infrastructure? Just what are we looking at here?
They were very remote, and yet so much has changed in the last 10 years. Most of these villages now have electricity going to them. A lot of them have running, a tap in their house now.
No way. Wow.
They don't have to go down to, a muddy river. A lot of the young people are walking around with their smartphones. It is crazy to, these people have come out of really like the Stone Ages, and they're right with us. I mean, they could help me figure out my phone. So along with that comes a lot of, potential dangers. I mean, they've never grown up with TV or internet. And so these are potential pitfalls as well for the church.
Yeah, well said. And for our church here in North America, it's just the same as anyone else, access to all sorts of pornography, lewdness, and so on. And so, yeah, we need to pray for deep relationship with God and strong discipleship and holiness. Speaking of this rush ahead with the generations, your son is now serving in Bolivia, not with the Guarani, but share a little bit about his work.
Sure. Yeah. He grew up learning the language very well. Even the Guarani, when we were studying that tribal language, he picked up a lot of that, and he just fits so well into a Latin culture, probably more than our other 4 children. God is using him amongst boys at risk, teenagers in the city of Santa Cruz, helping them stay off the street, help them finish their school, He's actually teaching them how to garden as well, how to care for plants, so that they can help their families and hopefully not be on the street begging or stealing and earn a living, learning how to work. And so it's hard for a parent to part with their child. I think every parent that sends their child, even if you've grown up in missions, it's hard to be so far away, but it's so rewarding to see our children following the Lord, and having a good view of missions is important. So yeah, we're thankful that he's there.
I'm glad you mentioned this. Years and years ago, it's probably at least 10 years, I was at a missions conference in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and I can't find my notes. I don't know who the speaker was, but he said the number one deterrent for people going into missions is parents who want you to stay home, safe and sound, get a good job with a medical benefit plan and an RRSP, and keep the kids close by. Share a little bit more then from the father's heart, your heart, about releasing your son to live miles and miles away cross-culturally in mission. Fears, worries?
I think like any parent, I was hesitant. I was trying to recruit other people's children to go to the mission field. And I remember the day my son asked me for an application. You struggle with that. It's quite natural. And yet, my mom had such a great attitude when we were overseas for about 20 years. She said she would rather have us serving the Lord in God's will than living right next door, and not following the Lord. And so, no, we're so pleased for that. And I think God had to work in my heart. And right now I'm trying to encourage other parents to be willing to release their children, their young people. I don't think there's a greater joy to be in the Lord's work and seeing God change lives than any other profession. And it doesn't matter how much you're paid or what the benefit package is, just seeing God change lives. And, if you could bring one person to Christ, that might change, so many generations of people. Sorry, I get a little emotional talking about that, but it's just so encouraging to see God using our efforts.
You could absolutely get emotional. You just saw it in your last visit, the witness of Carolyn's grandfather, multi-generations, and I'm sure that goes beyond just their family to that immediate family, but extended. So here's the message, friend listening. Maybe your kid, you take your family to church every Sunday, and your kids are starting to explore, do they want to serve God? And you are holding on to the American dream, get a good job and be comfortable, be safe, make money. Or what you just said, Mike, no amount of paycheck, no pension plan is worth seeing God move in someone's life. Parents, I got 3 kids post-secondary. They're exploring where they want to serve. One's Bible college, one's talking about going to South Africa for a little bit of time. And I'm stuck in the middle. Here I am, professional ministry person. I'm like, do I trust God to take care of my kids and release them? So parents, release your kids into God's care. He can take better care of them than you can. This is what I keep on praying for myself. But Mike, there is opportunities to work with an agency like Avant that knows how to train, knows how to watch over, and so on. If someone wants information for their kids, specifically, we're talking about people's kids this week, how do they find out about Avant both in Canada and the U.S.?
Yeah, we just have one united website. It's avantministries.org. There's a neat search engine there for opportunities, be it long-term, mid-term, short-term, different countries, different focuses, camps, businesses mission, technology. Our big push is church planting. That's where we really want to focus our efforts, also in countries that are less than 2% evangelical. And I think as parents, we try to steer our children in places that we think they would really be able to use their gifts. And it's really neat to see that God can use all kinds of our kids' giftings, and be it in sports, in music, in all kinds of areas. We're seeing God use those to plant his church. And so I think the first step would be going to the website and just perusing the the different opportunities.
AvantMinistries.org. Take a look at it today. Mike, always loved chatting with you, always encouraged by what God is doing through the Avant Ministries and about, your family's heritage. It warms my heart. I love to see the faithfulness of God in a family and the way you guys have served. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Tim. We sure appreciate your ministry and Galcom as well.
Well, friend, we're at the end of our program today, and you've been listening to Galcom's Mission Compass, your guide to the Great Commission. There are many ways to partner with us. To find out more, visit our website at galcom.org. That's Galcom, spelled GALCOM.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'm Ron Harris. Thanks for joining us today on Mission Compass, a radio ministry of Galcom International.
If you enjoyed this podcast, we upload a new episode every Monday. You can also find us on the radio or other streaming platforms. We have a list on our website. Make sure to subscribe, follow, and share our podcast. Please rate this episode and leave a review. We would love to hear back from you. And we also want to know where you're listening from. So click Mission Compass on our website, tell us, and we'll send you Galcom's devotional, 30 Days of Faith.